Hello guys, welcome back to iMovies Explainer. Today I'm going to explain 2016 movie called The Other, and the movie opens by showing a sexy Angela receiving a call from someone in a very sad state. At that moment, Angela thought that the person calling her was her ex-husband who had been separated for a long time. Angela kept calling her husband's name Tello, because he had no voice at all, but it turned out that the person Colin was not her ex-husband, Tello, but a teenager named Diego, who is the son of a psychiatrist at Angelov. In those two, it turns out that Diego secretly likes his own mother's patients. At that time he even called Angela while sporting his hands and fantasizing with Angela's voice. At that time, Angela didn't know that it wasn't her husband who was calling then. After Diego climaxed, he hung up the phone and immediately wiped the water of his life on a piece of paper, then put it in a folder and wrote down the date when he did it. One night, Angela, who didn't care about the caller's identity, invited him to come to her house and have dinner together. Angela then waited for him to come to her house, but after hours of waiting he didn't come. Finally got a headache after finishing one bottle of vodka while waiting for him. She then decided to call the caller and said she couldn't get up. There you go. Who heard about it immediately came to Angela's mother's rent and immediately took her to the doctor. Long story short, Angela finally woke up and she was surprised because she was already in the hospital. The doctor then said that Angela was allowed to go home, but Angela asked was the person who brought her to the hospital. The doctor replied that the person who brought her to the hospital was a teenager named Diego. At that moment, Angela was surprised because she had no acquaintance named Diego, let alone a teenager, because she felt that the recent events were strange. After returning from the hospital, she immediately consulted her regular psychiatrist, who was none other than Diego's mother, but he or she did not realize that her psychiatrist was Diego's mother. Shortly afterwards, Diego's mother left Angela alone out of curiosity. Angela then went to walk around the place and accidentally entered Diego's room, even accidentally took a blue folder containing Diego's watered life. After opening it, she was surprised because she saw her name on every paper in the folder, and she was even more confused by this incident than at night in July. I already knew the identity of the mysterious color, then threatened she would report it to the police, but the next day after Diego came home from school, he saw a letter from Angela. It was written that Angela would forgive Diego as long as he wanted to come to her rent at night. Finally, Diego desperately came to Angela's rent. Then they together, without feeling awkward, talked about music, because coincidentally Angela used to be a music teacher. Their conversation was still normal until suddenly Angela discussed about Diego's water life, which made Diego embarrassed and immediately left, but Angela prevented him and continued to tease Diego until finally they were excited and started making love. The night stayed at Angela's rent. The next morning when Diego returned home, he was awaited by his father, who was worried because he did not come home, but Diego argued that he stayed at a friend's house last night. Long story short, after school Diego played games at his friend Dylan Mo's house. At that time, Diego told his warm experience with a sexy widow named Angela. Willimer was surprised because of Diego's strange taste. A teenager, but made love to a woman twice his age. One day the thing that Diego had was finally known by his mother. It turned out that his mother had found a folder containing the Diego's water life that Diego collected. His mother then asked if this was related to Diego, who had been coming home early lately, but Diego argued that he had been staying at Diego's house for a few days and revealed that he was the same as ex-lover. He said that to cover up his relationship with Angela, his mother, who heard that could not understand her son. In short, Diego's relationship with Angela began to get stickier. Even Diego was not ashamed to introduce Angela to Guillermo and invited him to go on a date together. After the date was over, Diego came to Angela's house to make love as usual him, and said if there was no one at home, so Diego took his sister to Angela's house with him. Not long ago at Angela's house, his sister was called by her mother asking her where she was. Like a child, she was honest and answered that she was at Angela's house with Diego. Because of this, Diego's mother finally found out that Diego often stayed at Angela's house. She then met Angela and said that they had done something taboo because their relationship was like mother and son, especially when Diego was still a teenager. But according to Angela, there is nothing wrong with this relationship because soon Diego will be an adult and they also love each other. Hearing that Diego's mother then forbids them to have a relationship, she will even watch the ego all the time to prevent them from beating. After that incident, Angela was heartbroken again, and finally she decided to let Diego go. The next day when Diego visited Angela's rent, he was forbidden to enter by the guard who had previously been asked by Angela to evict Diego. Diego then tried to call Angela, but there was no answer. This also made Diego upset, as if he had lost his soul. Even because of this, he dared to scold his mother for forbidding their relationship. His mother then explained slowly that Diva was not ready mentally or materially to have a more serious relationship, especially with a woman who was twice the age of Diego. Diego looked silent and pensive, but in fact he didn't care about that advice. Then one night Angela suddenly called her and asked Diego to come to her house. Without thinking, Diego immediately came to Angela's rent and they ended up making love until the morning. Diego's parents, who found out about this, did not just let it go. They immediately held a family meeting with Diego. They then scolded Diego because Diego made his little brother know about making love and Diego's activities, released his life water. But it seems that Diego doesn't care because all he is in mind is being able to make love with Angela. After that, Diego gets wilder and wilder to the point that his parents give up try to advise him. One day while the eagle is still in school, he decides to run away from his school and go with Angela in a car and look happy together. And you know what happens next, and the movie ends here. This movie is called Black Amigo, or The Other End. So what do you think about this movie? Maybe you can write it in the comments column. Hope you were entertained. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos and see you in the next video.